We're talking about fueling greatness here, and particularly the specific impact that this appears to have on the functionality of someone who's going to engage in a physical performance. What do we know about that side of things?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways that the science has looked at it. So we've looked at acute sleep deprivation, so just short-term sleep deprivation. Hasn't been a lot of long-term sleep deprivation studies. And that's where, when you look at sleep deprivation, that's really like no sleep for 24, 36 hours. So that's like zero sleep. And they're nasty studies. And also that's not really real world for what a lot of athletes would do. I mean, maybe post-Olympics, if you won a gold medal, maybe you're not sleeping for 24 hours. No problem. Absolutely go for it. But what we see with most athletes and most people in general is this sleep restriction. So sleep is the sleep period, instead of being 8 or 9 hours, is more like 6 or 7. And now what we know from that type of research is that many aspects of performance are affected negatively. What we tend to see more, though, is the longer duration type activities that are affected more, which makes sense. The more fatigue you've got, the more fatigue that's being produced, the more opportunity you have to show the negative effects of being sleep deprived. When you look at some of the science, you can almost, an athlete to do like a 1RM or a single effort, a max jump or something, they can often, that's okay. It's probably not far off their best, but get them to do repeated efforts, repeated high intensity efforts, or have them do something that requires a lot of cognitive activity, then that's where we see the decrease in performance. And there's been studies that have looked at sport-specific performance like tennis, like basketball, and certainly seen negative effects there. And then on the flip side to that is studies that have looked at sleep extension. So the idea that if sleep deprivation is bad, well, if we get more sleep, shouldn't that be good? And there's only a couple of studies in that space, one in basketball, one in cycling, and some bit of an abstract in swimming. And yes, that does tend to show that. But it's interesting, I think a lot of those studies there, it's sleep extension, but maybe it's just the athletes getting the sleep that we actually recommend they should get, rather than extra sleep on top of normal sleep. So I think it's just bringing them back to like the 8 or 9 hours rather than the classic sort of sleep extension studies.